Hello, this is Tim Cummins. Thanks for joining us on this latest running of the MOOC. So I wanted to just do a little bit of a wrap-up, commenting on the first week of the program. Perhaps a good start point is to make the observation that really with each day, with each month that goes by, we see more and more evidence of the importance of contract management being increasingly appreciated and understood. So certainly the investment you're making in this MOOC is, I think, one that's very well placed. Now, what are the forces that are driving that growth of interest? Well, they continue to be very much, I think, around the challenges that organizations face in dealing in a networked world, where more and more of the interactions we're undertaking are virtual in their nature. More and more of them are international in their nature. And, of course, companies themselves have often outsourced large areas of their core capability, as I think we touch on during the program. Today, some 60 to 65% of a company's revenue is typically spent on external sources of supply. And even in areas like government, that percentage has grown dramatically. So the dependency we have upon these supply networks, supply ecosystems, is of critical importance. And this was reflected, in fact, just last month in the award of this year's Nobel Prize for Economics, which was made to two professors who have been doing work in the field of contracts and contract management. Now, I'm not going to spend too much of this video's time on going into detail about those, but one of them, Professor Holmstrom, has been looking very much at the question of incentives and performance indicators and the extent to which our inclusion of those in contracts, while being really important, can also become really confusing. So that's a particularly interesting piece of work that tries to help us understand how to build positive incentives to perform. Now, that touches neatly on one of the big topics, I think, that has come out this week, which is the perennial issue of trust. And there are many, of course, who would say, well, I only do business with people I trust. But in reality, the trust is something that comes and is earned over time. It very often does not precede the establishment of a relationship. So, of course, contracts are often the substitute almost for that trust. They're the safeguard that says, well, I'm not entirely sure I can trust you, or indeed, I may have no idea whether I can trust you, but so I want to have a structured discipline, if you like. I want to have the potential for recourse if I don't get what I expected, but I also want to make very clear that we've got a shared understanding of what's happening and what the obligations are. The other Nobel Prize winner was a Professor Hart, and Professor Hart's work has been in a rather different area. He has been looking at the whole issue of what he terms, or what is termed, the incomplete contract. Now, incomplete contract theory goes back some 50 years, and essentially is focused on the fact that it doesn't matter how much time and effort we put into agreeing a contract and negotiating the terms, there will always be elements that we can't readily predict. And those elements need to be covered by different mechanisms. A force majeure clause is a good example of that. And for those who aren't familiar with force majeure, it means dealing with catastrophic and unpredictable events, acts of God, as they were often termed in the past. It might be a cyclone. It could be an unexpected strike somewhere in the world that disrupts supply. So there have always been principles of that sort built into contracts to try to deal with the unexpected. The critical point today is that the percentage, if you like, of unexpected events continues to grow, whether that's unexpected political issues or, of course, an increase in the geopolitical, the weather conditions, etc., that affect today's supply chains, extended as they are now all around the world. So the range of things that are unexpected that could fundamentally change the economics of the deal, the ability to fulfill obligations, or the nature of the obligations that we want fulfilled. For example, a new technology may come along and we may say, oh, I don't actually want what I wanted before, or the ability to deliver it is fundamentally transformed because of that new technology or that new commercial offering. So that ability to deal with the uncertainty and the unexpected is where the incomplete contract really comes to play. And that lies at the heart of much of what we're going to go on and talk about over the next 2 weeks, because it is in fact trying to build frameworks that give us a level of uncertainty around how we're going to handle situations, rather than necessarily always trying to predict exactly what that situation will be. Contracts are increasingly being seen as management tools, and first and foremost, to deliver expected economic and financial benefits and results for both parties. And really only at a secondary level are they now, in a sense, legal documents, which covers the stuff of, well, what happens if it all goes wrong? So I hope you'll stick with us over the next 2 weeks. Thank you for all the written comments and observations and the many chats that are going on. And we'll look forward to hearing more from you. And I will be back next week. Bye for now.